What's up, guys? I'm gonna try to do this in one take so that I don't have to edit it because I want to finish editing this project. But I just got some requests on Reddit to talk about how I'm doing these like kind of fluid floating in the air type simulations. So I'm just gonna break it down a little bit, I guess. Just talk about what I do. So first off, for all the fluid simulations, I'm using the Flip Fluids add-on for Blender. Um, the regular Blender Fluid add-on with MantaFlow is pretty good now, but I just find it's a lot easier to get good results with Flip. It's a little expensive, but I highly recommend it if you're going to be doing a lot of simulations because you're spending a lot of time here, so I think it's worth it. So first of all, we have a domain. You need that for any fluid simulation. I have my grid resolution set pretty high, but for these simulations, it's usually pretty forgiving because I don't have inflows. So like when you have inflows adding more water, that makes the bake times a lot higher. But if you just start with something like this, like a water object, then the simulations tend to bake a lot faster. So basically, I guess I'll go over the setup first and then I'll go over the domain settings. So basically I just have a cone here with water. Just starts as like a fluid object. So if you go into physics settings with an object selected and you click on, fluid physics or flip fluid if you have flip, then for different types of objects you can choose fluid. You can pick an offset here, but usually I just have them start there. So this starts and it just kind of starts slowly sinking down for reasons we'll talk about later. And then around here, we have these start coming into effect. So these cones are 3 force fields, which is a new like experimental flip build that basically lets you make, vacuums kind of. They suck fluid into them. They are a field of force, So around here we have a force field trigger, and I just like to stagger the triggering of the force fields because you get a nice like ebb and flow, after this one triggers, it's another 20 or so frames before it starts taking the movement over this way. And then finally this one triggers. I'm going to switch to rendered mode. And then this one triggers. And then there is a final one, final force field, right here. And this is the strongest force field. It's the highest up. I tweak these values manually. I can't really find any tutorials or anything. It really is up to you what visual result you want. But mostly the projects that look this way, it's just because I'm starting with a fluid object and I'm using force fields to manipulate it, and not using too many inflows. So there's the setup. Now we can click on the domain settings and just look at what's going on here. The speed's real low. I like to just get, good fluid motion, and you can always speed it up. You can see that I have like 20 seconds of footage here. So if you want fast cuts, you can always just play it back faster and you'll get the faster motion. Let's see what else we have. As I said, the resolution's pretty high, but honestly, these look pretty good. Like with reasonable sized domains at like 200 resolution. A lot of the ones, I think the most recent one I posted to Reddit was somewhere like that. I've just recently been experimenting with the higher res ones because I had an overnight chance to bake this. Fluid surface subdivisions 1 is huge. It recommends 1. I've never even tried 2, so you could maybe try a higher one, but that's what gives it like this kind of, this more subdivided texture and makes it look less like flat and, kind of shade smoothed, less like a blob. I don't mess around with any of these other settings other than turning subdivisions up to 1. In the display settings, I tend to turn the particle scale down a little bit. I know this is probably like a world scale thing, and this is just like a weird way that I do it, but by default in Flip it's 0.008 for particle scale. I turn it to 0.003. I have the regular Flip Whitewater turned on, just the basic viewing mode. With foam, bubbles, and spray, and I just give them the default foam, bubble, and spray particle. I change max particles down to 9 million because it can be pretty tough on your graphics card to just like, I think by default it's 12, so just with everything going on, I like to turn it down a little bit, just less overwhelming. Let's see what else. In the fluid world, surface tension and sheeting are also huge. You can go online and there's some Flip examples where they will show you like lower surface tension or no surface tension, or higher surface tension or low sheeting, high sheeting. And it does make a pretty big impact to like you know, they're realistic water physics. Water has like an equilibrium thickness when it's like spreading out across something, and so that's kind of what the sheeting represents. And then surface tension, you know, hopefully you understand. If not, you can read about it. For materials, I just basically have a super simple glass, literally default glass BSDF for my water. Same for this cube, if you were wondering. For the background, I use Poliigon's Pro Lighting Skies, but for some of the projects, I use Physical Atmosphere. They're both, again, kind of expensive plugins, but they're so applicable. Like, you can use them for anything, so I highly recommend it. If not, you can just grab an HDRI, or you could try some manual lighting. I haven't been doing that too much because I like to focus on the fluid, and unless you have like a complicated light setup, the refractions on the fluid don't really look that like genuine. Like, a lot of why water looks so good, I think, is because there's so many light sources going into it that you get like really interesting refraction and just different colors and like a lot of contrast in the water. And when I don't use HDRIs, I'm always kind of disappointed with just like how singularly lit my water is. But maybe I'll have to try some new stuff. That might just be me. Let's see. I don't really have much else to show you, I guess. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments. Oh, this is a procedurally generated cloud. Shout out to, oh my gosh, I'm blanking out, CGMatter. He's a fucking beast, one of my favorites, and he has a tutorial on how to do this procedural cloud, which is pretty fucking tight, very useful. But yeah, hopefully you guys like this. If you did, I can show you a little bit more of the stuff I do. If there's anything specific from the last video that you guys want to know how to do that I didn't cover here, just let me know. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.